Purpose of this video: chronicling my attempts to get ready to learn the piano and setting a goal now that I am. Learning how to play the piano has always been something I've wanted to do. There's so many different types of music, and almost all music can be played to some capacity on the piano. It's a very versatile instrument. And music played solely on the piano is probably my favourite kind of music out of any kind of music which is played solely on just one instrument. But before I can play a piano, I first need to own a piano, and they aren't very cheap. Luckily for me, there's an old electric piano at my parents' house, and because no one's used it in years, I've been given permission to take it. It's a pretty good one too. Well, it was a pretty good one when it was first produced, but I'm sure it still holds up. So I recruited the help of my brother to get up the stairs to my apartments, and I set it up in my house. But there are a couple problems. I didn't have a power cable for it, and a bunch of the keys on the piano didn't press down properly. Problems like these are actually pretty good, since their goals and objectives are usually baked pretty well into the task itself. I don't need to set and decide on goals here, as I already know what the goal is to get the piano to start working. And my sub-objective is obvious too. I just need to find a power cable and figure out why my piano keys are being weird. So I started searching on the internet and I ordered a power cable that fit my computer and I plugged it in. Some of the lights came on, but not all of them, but none of the keys were making any sound. At this point I was thinking it could be one of two things. Either the speakers built into the piano were broken, since it had been sitting unused for years, or some of the piano's internal wiring was broken, since it had been sitting unused for years. I was hoping it was the former and not the latter, because if it was just the speakers broken, then I could still just plug headphones into the piano and play it that way. In order to test this, I took my headphones and I went to plug them into my piano, only to find that the headphone ports on the piano were several times bigger than the headphone jacks that I had on my headphone. So I went to the internet again, searching for an adapter, and I got a little plug that I can put on the end of my headphone jack, which allows me to plug it into my piano. However, this didn't work, as I plugged it in, started pressing buttons, no sound came out, still wasn't working. So if it wasn't the speakers, it must have been the wiring. So I laid it on my floor and opened up the back in order to check for that. What I did was I followed along the wires to see if anything was obviously broken or fried or cut, and at the same time I also inspected the circuit boards to see if anything was obviously broken on those either. Whilst I was looking at it, nothing really looked like it was broken, although admittedly I'm not super experienced with electronics, and it would have to have been very obviously broken for me to have picked up on it. But whilst I was back there, I couldn't find anything which looked as if it was not in good repair. Though, whilst I was back there, I found out why a bunch of the keys were not pressing down. Whilst the piano had been sitting at my parents' house for all that time, it was being used as a shelf, and it seemed over the years odds and ends had been slipping down into the piano from time to time. By the time it got to me, it was full of them. Pencils, coins, pencil sharpeners, and other similar small objects had been stuffing the back end of the piano, obstructing a lot of the moving parts in there. So before I screwed the back of the piano back onto it, I spent some time picking out all of these objects out of the piano so that it would work properly. And whilst I was doing that, I was thinking about what I was going to do next to see if I could get this piano working, since I couldn't find any issue on it so far. I couldn't really find anything, but given the fact that the piano was quite expensive when it was first bought, and the fact that getting my own piano in order to learn piano on would also be incredibly expensive, I was quite eager to not just give up on it. I decided that I would take this to a professional, and I googled on the internet looking for a nearby professional and that turned out to be the best thing I could have done in that situation. The guy I got hold of was super cool and super helpful. I was expecting to have to pay a good bit of money to have someone to come out and look at it and like probably spot something along the wirings that I hadn't spotted, maybe replace a circuit board, something like that. But after a brief description of what was going on with my piano to the man over the phone, he brought to my attention that the type of piano I was using is very particular to the type of power supply that is being powered with. And he said that the generic power supply, which fit my piano that I'd ordered off the internet, was probably what was causing the issue. And he pointed me in the right direction of where I could get a power supply that would work for my piano. So great, I'd now cleared out my piano, so all the keys were pressing down nicely, and all the moving parts at the back were moving unobstructed. I had the power source, which I'd ordered off the internet, which should be the right one, coming in the mail. All I had to do was wait for it to arrive and see if it worked. And thankfully it did. Not only that, but also my speakers, which for some reason along the course I decided were broken, were also working. I'm not sure why I came to that conclusion in retrospect, but I was completely convinced the speakers were broken. This was actually really good, and the entire experience was a really good one for me. I did a clear series of goals, each goal leading directly into the next one, and at the end of all that I got exactly what I wanted. Let's hope for many more of these in the future. So now I had my piano, and it was time to figure out how I was going to learn how to play it. I did the same thing that I did last time for my drawing, searching for an online YouTube tutorial course, and when I didn't find anything there, looking for a useful subreddit designed towards helping newcomers learn. And I'd found what I was looking for. But there was a catch. Apparently learning how to play piano on your own is very difficult. It creates a lot of bad habits, and the subreddit didn't recommend for anyone to try and learn to play piano on their own. What they did instead was say that I should go and get a piano instructor and try to learn from them. Whilst I'm sure a part of this is because the group of people who make a learning piano subreddit and the group of people who are piano instructors probably overlap quite a lot, so there's some conflicting interests, it's probably still a good idea to take their word for it. But given the current situation of England, and given that I'm not in a financial place to be paying for a piano instructor right now, I decided to push forwards without an instructor, finding a thread on the subreddit that was talking about learning it on your own. The thread said I should find one of the formal books that the instructors go through with their students and I should follow that. So there was no kind of custom online course or YouTube video series, which are generally my preferred methods of learning. But that's fine, I'll take the best I can get, and what was recommended to me was Alfred's Basic Adult Piano course. So I went and procured myself a PDF version of that. At this point I decided it was about time to set some goals in terms of learning the piano. I had all the materials I needed ready and set up for me to get to work, so it was time I decided what direction I was going to be headed in. My long-term goal here isn't quite as long-term as it is with drawing. I'm not trying to make money by playing piano, I'd just like to be able to play an instrument. In this case, the long-term goal I'm setting might even be accomplished within a year or two of now. Or it may not, we'll see how difficult it proves. But for now, my long-term goal is to play I Say Yes from the Zero no Tsukaima soundtrack on the piano. Zero no Tsukaima is a really shitty anime I watched when I was in my early teens, and because I watched it when I was so young, it made an impression on me. I really like the show, despite its obvious and many flaws, and its soundtrack in particular I really like. I Say Yes sounds really good on the piano, so that's what I want to play. And in order to get to that long-term objective, my short-term goal right now is to work my way through the beginner's book one page at a time until it's finished. So everything seems like it's set. I've got the tools I need to get working, and I've got a direction to be working in. I'll be seeing you guys in 3 weeks to let you know how that's gone. I'll be seeing you guys next week with a Salty Zerg's 75 IQ attempts to climb himself out of Diamond League in StarCraft 2.